There's so few players who have maintained such an elite level of play over the course of over 15 years, 16 years. It's remarkable that he's still doing this. Like, you don't take Chris Paul for granted. The Mismatch, presented by FanDuel Sportsbook.
Chris Paul last night and that Phoenix Suns team. And let me say something, Kev, because we'll backtrack to the actual game. But his moment after the game, where sometimes these post-game interviews give you nothing.
Yeah, that gave you something last night.
And sometimes there's moments that take place. And you didn't know what he was going to do when Rachel Nichols asked him questions about what it means to him, because there's many guys in the past that have said, this is awesome. We're so happy that we were able to get this done, but we're not done yet, that kind of stuff. There's still work to be done or whatever. And instead, he took that moment to say, it's been 16 years. There's all these people that have been by me, and it's all those surgeries, and it's all those losses, and it's all those bad losses, and it's being here and giving my heart and soul in LA for 6 years and coming up short. And then obviously, and like, he got very reflective, and he's like, we're going to enjoy this, and we're going to enjoy this tonight. And it was like a real moment. It was a real moment, right? Where a guy, it felt like he did take the time to smell the roses, as they say, rather than just do the, the cliched, our work's not done. We got more work to do. We're not happy yet. That kind of thing. Mm-hmm. It's like, it's been 16 years. I've been trying to get to where I just got. And my back hurts because Pat Bev pushed me. No, he didn't say that. But it was like, it was a moment for sure. Yeah. And look, his antics can get annoying. He even had a couple moments last night.
Yeah, the flopping. That's part of the NBA and part of Chris Paul.
But also, everybody recognizes what an unbelievable player he has been for so long. And if you are a true basketball fan and an NBA fan, I find it difficult to believe that you did not feel happy for that guy.
How could you not feel happy for Chris Paul, Chris? After watching him for over a decade, so like the way, like if you start from his career to where how much of your life has changed now, there's so few players who have maintained such an elite level of play over the course of over, 15 years, 16 years. It's remarkable that he's still doing this. Like, you don't take Chris Paul for granted. And I thought, Chris, the quote that he said in the locker room, the Suns posted a video today, and like they're celebrating DeAndre Ayton's, laying on the floor with the trophy. And Chris Paul says something along the lines of, as good as this feels, imagine what the next one's going to feel like. And I thought the way the team celebrated, the way they rallied, the way this team has fought every step of the way here, and the fact that Chris Paul is doing this with Monty Williams. Monty Williams' first year as an NBA head coach was in 2010, Chris Paul's final season in New Orleans. The fact that these guys 10 years later joined up again, how all of their lives have changed so much over those 10 years, and that they're together again, and now that they have this opportunity to bring the Phoenix Suns to the NBA Finals and maybe win it, it just feels like, the Suns in some ways feel like a team of destiny. We'll see what happens with the Bucks. They could very much have the same beautiful story. Giannis has this scary injury, and he goes down, then he comes back and has some heroics. It could be the same thing for the Bucks. Like, there's always multiple teams that feel like a team of destiny. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. But this Suns team, it's just very much like a storybook, the way it has come together with Chris Paul and Monty Williams helping this franchise with Devin Booker and DeAndre and some of the young bright spots, Mikal Bridges too, and coming together and building this team that plays together, that plays for each other, and just plays a high level of basketball on both ends of the floor. It's a heck of a lot of fun to watch, man. It's a great story, the fact that they're even here.
Years ago, you say, I covered a lot of playoff series that included Chris Paul. I detested Chris Paul and those Clippers teams for so long, but I talked about this a couple weeks ago. In this day and age, when after colossal disappointment in Houston, when he gets shipped off to go play in Oklahoma City, and he didn't make a peep, and he didn't force his way out, and he didn't throw a fit over it, and he didn't lay down. He took a group of guys that he had never played with before, threw them on their back. They were the best clutch team in the NBA. He was the best clutch performer in the NBA, and he got him the damn 5 seed last year, right? And then he's able to move on, and he doesn't go with 2 other superstars. I mean, like, to me, his story and the way this has happened, you talked about the 10 years ago playing with Monty Williams, I felt old the other day. I saw, did you see it where this was when he was out for COVID? The video that they were showing that was taken at their house by his kid. It was a TikTok video with Chris Paul dancing in the background, and this is when he was out for COVID. And I think the kid on TikTok is like little Chris Paul or something. I mean, he's got a ton of followers or whatever. But I was watching it, and I'm like, when you say about how much they have changed and we have changed throughout watching his career, I'm sitting there going, that's the kid from his lap in the press conferences like that.
Yeah.
How does this kid, Lil Chris Paul, looks like a teenager, got TikToks with this, dad acting goofy in the background? I'm like, this is wild. Like, everybody remembers Chris Paul going to press conferences with his kid on his lap. Like, that was commonplace every playoffs. And the other thing I'll say is this. He's the best player on the floor last night in a Western Conference Finals game. He had 41 points. And if you would have told somebody that 2 years ago, literally 2 years ago, Kevin, he played 58 games for the Rockets. He averaged 15 points a game. He shot 42% from the field and 36% from 3 for the season. Now, if you would have said in 2 years, Chris Paul's going to score 41 points in a Western Conference Finals game on the road and throw it that, even if you didn't think he was done, even if you didn't think he was done. No, I'm saying, but even if you didn't write him off, the idea that his best could be ahead of him at that point was far-fetched. It was far-fetched to believe that his best would be ahead of him, but you can't be better than.
I mean, I'm not like from an individual standpoint, like these still aren't his prime years in terms of individual talent and numbers and production. But like, I still think 2 years ago, that final season with Houston, he just played way better without James Harden. When Harden wasn't out there on the floor, and this is where I think things were missed. Like, it didn't work for a lot of different reasons with him and Harden. But like, when I interviewed Mike D'Antoni that year for a story that I never ended up doing, D'Antoni said to me, he's like, I think Chris Paul is still going to play great for another 3, 4, 5, 6 years, that this guy's nowhere near done, that people are missing something here, and that Oklahoma City is about to get a great player. We saw him be that great player for Oklahoma City, like you said, Chris. I think so much about what he did last season with that team. I do. He could have went there and pouted, like you said recently. He could have pouted. He could have forced his way out and said, I don't want to play here. But instead, he took on a leadership position, helped along Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, all these young guys. They won a heck of a lot of games, competed, made a little bit of a run there. And then he went home. They're close to home in Phoenix. His family is so located very much in Los Angeles, so he wanted to be close to home. And the fact that he's did that in Los Angeles too, it's just great, man. The fact that everybody was there for him. And
how wild is it to think back? What if they would have said, you know what, we're rolling with Chris Paul?
Yeah.
And they would have traded Harden then. I mean, it would have been insane to think about, but the way it all played out.
If let's say D'Antoni was like in a Stan Van Gundy role.
That's right.
And D'Antoni was like, I'm going to trade James Harden.
That's right.
And keep Chris Paul. Yeah. But yeah, 2 years ago, like to your point though, Chris, 2 years ago, if that was said, of course, like some people would be, surprised. A lot of people would have been surprised. But I think the point I'm getting at here is, guys like Mike D'Antoni wouldn't have been surprised. I think like there were a lot of people around the league who were like, I don't know. Chris Paul still got something here. He still has something left in the tank, and he showed it, man. Like, and we'll see in the NBA Finals. It could be, because here's the thing with Chris Paul. He was dealing with the injury earlier. Then he had the COVID stuff, getting back in game shape. We said on Tuesday's show, a lot of short, misses. If Chris Paul is back in peak shape here, back in basketball condition for the NBA Finals here, that's going to be just a major boost to some of the issues that Phoenix has had on offense generating in the half court. If you get this version of Chris Paul on a more consistent basis, he's amazing.
He looked, you got the peak Chris Paul last night. Booker obviously looked a lot more like himself than he had in the recent past too. And now you've got a delay. They're going to get some extra time off here to get healthy. And just on the Paul thing, because it's obviously a Chris Paul appreciation day, 11-time All-Star, 10-time All-NBA, 9-time All-Defense. Every accolade you could ever want. And I was trying to think as I was watching last night about, you have that moment where it's like, every basketball fan feels good for this guy because you followed him for so long, and he's been a great, great player that has never been in the finals. And the list is not enormous of the best players of all time because he's on that list. He's one of the best players of all time. Those accolades, you can match those up with all the greats. Dominique Wilkins didn't play in an NBA Finals. Chris Webber didn't play in an NBA Finals. Carmelo Anthony never played in an NBA Finals. Probably, in terms of accomplishment, because Nash won 2 MVPs, he's right there. Nash, he lost in 3 conference finals, once when he was in Dallas and twice when he was in Phoenix. Of course, Chris Paul had lost 4-3 to the Warriors in 2018, but and then you get down to the Vince Carters and the Joe Johnsons, and honestly, Paul George.
Yeah.
He's on that list. There's not that many when you think about never played in an NBA Finals. Most of the greatest players ever, or ones that have an insane amount of accolades, have played in it before. And so that was something that was out there, right? It's not just greatest players to not win a championship. That list gets way small when you're talking about greatest players to never play in a finals.
For sure. And that's a lot of more recent players like George Gervin, somebody who didn't, make
Bernard King.
Yeah, of course.
Pete
a lot of classic
didn't.
players, but you're talking last 20, 25 years or so. Yeah. Most of those guys do,
But even if you listed off the greatest players from the 50s and 60s and 70s,
still not a lot.
90% of them did.
Absolutely. At least make it, You're 100% right.